Let's talk about something most men are terrified to admit. Great sex has very little to do with the body and everything to do with the mind. The men who truly satisfy women emotionally and sexually are not the men who chase their own pleasure first. They are the men who understand how female desire actually works. A woman does not open her body until she feels safe in her heart and stimulated in her mind. And the men who master this psychology don't just become better lovers, they become unforgettable partners. Tonight, we're breaking down the psychology behind men who please women first and why this mindset completely transforms attraction, intimacy, and sex. Most men are taught that sexual attraction begins with physical contact. They believe that if the body is engaged, desire will follow. But the psychology of women works in the opposite direction. A woman's body does not truly open until her mind is already engaged. Her desire is born first in how she feels with you emotionally, mentally, and energetically, long before any physical moment begins. This is why so many men struggle with intimacy even when they are physically present. They touch, but they are not emotionally connected. They approach sex as an action, while women experience sex as an emotional state. Men who please women first understand this fundamental truth: female arousal is psychological before it is physical. A woman becomes sexually responsive when she feels seen, heard, understood, and emotionally safe. When she senses that you are fully present with her, not distracted, not rushed, not performing, her nervous system begins to relax. And when her nervous system relaxes, her body becomes naturally more open to intimacy and desire. This is why emotional presence is such a powerful form of seduction. The way you listen to her, the way you look at her, the way you respond to her feelings, these moments build the foundation of sexual attraction. Every time you give her your undivided attention, every time you acknowledge her emotions without trying to fix them, every time you make her feel valued instead of evaluated, you are stimulating her desire at a deeper level than touch ever could. Many women will say, "I'm not in the mood," not because their body is closed, but because emotionally they do not feel connected in that moment. They don't feel chosen. They don't feel prioritized. They don't feel understood. The man who understands this doesn't take it personally or react with frustration. He knows that restoring emotional connection restores sexual connection. He slows down. He becomes more present. He reconnects with her emotionally first. And as that bond strengthens, her desire naturally returns. This is why foreplay for a woman is not an activity, it is an atmosphere. It begins in conversation, in attention, in laughter, in emotional safety, and in how she feels in your presence. When a woman feels emotionally held by a man, she begins to crave physical closeness with him. Her attraction deepens because she associates him with comfort, connection, and desire. Her body follows her emotional state. Men who master this psychology stop chasing physical reactions and start cultivating emotional chemistry. And that chemistry is what creates the most powerful, satisfying, and lasting sexual connection a woman can experience. Because when a woman's mind is turned on, her body does not need to be convinced. One of the most powerful emotional shifts a man can create in a woman's mind is the feeling of being desired, not merely wanted for convenience, comfort, or physical release. There is a deep psychological difference between a man who seeks a woman because he needs something from her and a man who chooses her because he genuinely wants her. Women feel this difference immediately in your tone, your energy, your patience, and your presence. Men who please women first understand that desire is emotional before it is sexual. A woman opens her body most naturally when she feels that she is being chosen intentionally, not used, not rushed, not treated like an option, but selected, valued, and appreciated as a whole person. When a woman feels chosen, her nervous system relaxes, her confidence increases, her desire becomes softer but stronger at the same time. She begins to trust the connection, and with trust comes deeper intimacy. This is why the way a man approaches sex psychologically matters so much. When sex feels like a demand, pressure builds and desire shrinks. But when sex feels like an invitation born from connection, curiosity, and affection, a woman's attraction grows. She begins to associate the man with emotional safety and sexual fulfillment simultaneously. Men who master this don't separate emotional closeness from physical closeness. They make a woman feel wanted through their attention, their consistency, their words, and their actions. They show her that she matters to them outside of the bedroom, and because of that, she becomes far more open inside it. A woman's body responds to how valued she feels. When she senses that she is desired as a person, not just as a body, her desire becomes natural, fluid, and expressive. She becomes more relaxed in intimacy, more confident in her sexuality, and more emotionally bonded to the man she is with. This is also why women become deeply attached to men who make them feel special. The brain releases bonding hormones when a woman experiences both emotional connection and sexual closeness together. Over time, her mind begins to associate that man with comfort, excitement, and fulfillment. not because he took from her, but because he chose her. Men who prioritize this emotional dimension of desire don't chase sex. They create conditions where sex becomes a natural extension of the bond they have already built. And when a woman feels emotionally chosen, she often gives more freely, more passionately, and more openly because her heart is already invested. This is the quiet power of making a woman feel desired instead of needed. It transforms intimacy from an act into a connection. A man who genuinely prioritizes a woman's pleasure is often misunderstood. Many people think that focusing on a woman's experience somehow makes a man weak, passive, or secondary in the relationship. In reality, the opposite is true. A man who is secure enough to care deeply about how a woman feels emotionally and sexually is demonstrating one of the strongest forms of confidence there is. He is not trying to prove himself. He is not competing with anyone. He is not rushing toward his own satisfaction. He understands that true power in intimacy comes from creating an experience, not chasing a result. When a woman feels that her comfort, her emotions, and her pleasure genuinely matter to a man, something shifts inside her. She relaxes, her defenses soften, her trust deepens. She becomes more expressive, more affectionate, and more open, not because she is being managed or manipulated, but because she feels safe and valued. This is where emotional bonding and sexual connection begin to reinforce each other. The brain releases powerful bonding chemicals when pleasure and emotional closeness occur together. Over time, her nervous system starts to associate that man with safety, warmth, excitement, and emotional fulfillment. The connection becomes something she doesn't just enjoy, she craves it. Men who understand this do not see intimacy as something they take. They see it as something they build. They pay attention to her reactions, her mood, her comfort, and her boundaries. They create an environment where she feels confident in her body, secure in the relationship, and free to express desire without fear or pressure. As a result, her desire doesn't have to be forced. It flows naturally, and something even more important happens when a woman feels deeply satisfied, emotionally and physically. She becomes naturally generous with her affection. She wants to give back. She wants to nurture the connection. She wants to invest. Her loyalty strengthens because her heart and her body are aligned with the relationship. This is not about self-sacrifice. This is about emotional leadership. A man who leads intimacy with awareness and care sets the emotional tone of the relationship. He makes his partner feel cherished instead of chased. He makes connection feel stable instead of uncertain, and in that stability, passion grows stronger rather than weaker, because the truth is, when a woman feels deeply fulfilled with a man, she does not look elsewhere for excitement or validation. Her emotional and physical needs are already being met. The relationship becomes her safest place and her strongest desire. This is the quiet strength of a man who prioritizes a woman's experience. He creates a bond that does not need control, pressure, or fear to survive. It survives on connection. A woman's ability to fully open herself, emotionally and sexually, is directly connected to how safe she feels with the man she is with. Safety is not something that can be demanded or rushed. It is something that is created slowly, consistently, and intentionally. And when that sense of safety exists, a woman's capacity for intimacy expands in powerful ways. Emotional safety allows a woman to relax her mind, and when her mind relaxes, her body follows. Men who please women first understand that intimacy cannot grow in an environment of tension, pressure, unpredictability, or emotional instability. A woman cannot surrender into closeness when she is worried about being judged, misunderstood, ignored, or emotionally abandoned. Her nervous system must feel secure before her heart, and then her body can truly open. This is why calm, grounded men are so deeply attractive. A man who is emotionally stable, patient, and present sends a powerful message to a woman's nervous system: you are safe here. When a woman receives that message consistently, she begins to trust the connection. She feels free to express herself, her needs, her desires, and even her vulnerabilities without fear of being rejected or punished for them. As that trust deepens, her confidence grows. In the relationship, in her body, and in her sexuality, she becomes more relaxed during intimacy, more open to connection, and more expressive in her affection. The emotional safety you provide becomes the foundation that allows passion to thrive. This is also why emotional unpredictability damages intimacy. When a man is hot and cold, distant, and then intense, affectionate and then withdrawn, a woman's nervous system stays on alert. She may still care deeply, but her body remains guarded. Desire cannot fully bloom in an environment where security feels unstable. Men who lead with calm presence create something different. They create consistency. They create trust. They create a sense of emotional home, and inside that emotional home, intimacy becomes natural, effortless, and deeply fulfilling. When a woman feels safe with a man, she does not have to protect herself, she does not have to perform, she does not have to pretend. She can simply be, and in that state of being, her desire becomes genuine, strong, and lasting. True intimacy is not about intensity alone, it is about stability, and the man who understands this doesn't just become her partner, he becomes her emotional anchor. That is the kind of man a woman opens herself to completely. Most men believe intimacy begins when the door closes at night. But the men who truly understand women know that desire is something that is built quietly, consistently, and emotionally throughout the entire day. What happens in the bedroom is only the result of what has already been created long before. A woman's desire is not a switch, it is a slow emotional current. And the men who please women first are masters at keeping that current flowing. They do this through attention, through presence, through the small moments that tell a woman, I am here with you. I see you, I choose you. A simple message, a thoughtful question, remembering something she said earlier, making her laugh, listening without distraction. These things seem small, but they accumulate in her mind and body. Each moment of emotional connection becomes part of her sense of closeness with you, and closeness fuels desire. When a woman feels emotionally connected to a man throughout the day, by the time intimacy becomes possible, her heart is already open, her mind is already warm, her body is already responsive. The atmosphere of intimacy has been forming long before any physical moment arrives. This is why women often say they feel close or distant from their partner, even before anything physical happens. That emotional distance or closeness determines whether desire feels natural or forced. Men who understand this do not wait until night to suddenly try to create passion. They build it gradually. They nurture the bond, they stay emotionally engaged, and because of that, intimacy becomes easy, relaxed, and deeply fulfilling. Desire grows in familiarity, not pressure. It grows in safety. Not urgency. It grows when a woman feels emotionally held. When a woman feels that steady emotional connection, she does not need to be convinced into intimacy. She arrives there on her own. Her body responds because her heart already feels connected. This is the psychology behind emotional foreplay. It is not something you do, it is something you create. And the men who understand this don't just experience better intimacy, they experience deeper love, stronger bonds, and a connection that lasts. Because when you build desire all day, intimacy becomes the most natural thing in the world. A woman's deepest emotional and relational craving is not sex, attention, or even commitment. It is to be understood without having to fight for that understanding. When a man truly understands this, his entire approach to intimacy changes, because he realizes that emotional comprehension is the gateway to everything else. When a woman feels understood, her mind relaxes. When her mind relaxes, her body opens. When her body opens, intimacy becomes natural instead of forced. Men who please women first develop emotional awareness as a core strength. They observe her energy, her mood, her tone, her shifts in emotion. They don't ignore these signals, they respond to them. They adjust their presence to meet her where she is emotionally, instead of demanding that she meet them where they are. This creates something powerful, emotional harmony. When a woman experiences emotional harmony with a man, her nervous system begins to trust him. She feels less guarded, less defensive, less anxious about being misunderstood or dismissed. That sense of inner safety allows her to become more open, emotionally, mentally, and eventually physically. This is why women often feel most attracted to the men who just get them, not the loudest men, not the flashiest men, but the men who can read between the lines, sense when something is off, and respond with care instead of conflict. A woman who feels emotionally understood does not need to protect herself. She does not need to perform. She does not need to hide her vulnerability. She can be fully present, and that presence deepens intimacy in every form. Men who cultivate this emotional intelligence create relationships where desire grows naturally. Because when a woman feels deeply seen, her affection becomes softer, her attraction becomes stronger, and her bond becomes more secure. She becomes more expressive in intimacy, more connected in conversation, and more invested in the relationship as a whole. This is the hidden foundation of powerful intimacy, emotional attunement. A man who is emotionally attuned does not control the relationship, he stabilizes it, he anchors it, he makes it feel safe to grow. And when a woman feels safe to grow with a man, her heart opens wider, her trust deepens, and her desire becomes something she offers freely, not something that needs to be chased. That is the psychology behind being unforgettable to a woman. Not because you took something from her, but because you understood her. The men who win in love are not the ones who take first, they are the ones who give first. They understand that when a woman feels emotionally fulfilled, sex becomes deeper, connection becomes stronger, and loyalty becomes natural. That's the psychology behind men who please women first. And that's what separates boys from unforgettable men.